Hello and welcome to the Naik Media YouTube channel. Today we're talking about whether you should shoot in auto mode. And the short answer to that is no. I wish everything was this kind of simple to answer, but there are definitely some circumstances where auto might be the most appropriate. So for example, if you don't have time to prep, if you need to get that shot there and then instantly and don't have time to play with the settings to get the right exposure, something we always talk about at our workshops, our training workshops, is the shot is king. You must get the shot. You know, if the only way to get that shot is to stick your camera into auto, do it and get that shot. It's better than faffing with video controls and missing it. Another occasion you might want to use auto mode is if you don't have the confidence to shoot in manual. And a lot of people who are new to using more advanced cameras often struggle to get to grips with it. It's something they should always try to learn, but if you're not quite at that stage yet, then maybe auto is the best way for you. So, what mode should you be shooting in when you're doing your video? This should probably be on your camera, if you're using a DSLR style, shutter priority. And this is often called TV on your camera settings, so just look for that on the top dial of the camera. So this means you're taking control of the shutter speed rather than the aperture or the ISO. We'll talk more of those in another video, but I'm sure you can find that information online. But basically, by taking control of the shutter speed, you can determine the aesthetic blur of the footage, making it look nice and smooth, making it look more cinematic. So for example, we're shooting right now, we're shooting 25 frames per second and at 1/50th shutter. And that means that the blur is going to look nice and blurry, a bit more realistic. And if we change that, it'll make it look more jittery and less aesthetically pleasing. So the rule for us basically is shoot with your shutter speed set at double the frames per second. So if you are shooting 25 frames per second, your shutter speed should be set to 1/50th. If you're shooting 50 frames a second to do some slow motion stuff, then your shutter speed should be set to 1/100th of a second. That's the general rule, and it's called a 180-degree shutter. I got it right that time. Yeah. So basically, double your frames per second is your shutter speed. Just think of that number. So having your camera in fully automatic or even aperture priority could result in the effect where you get this kind of jittery look. Some camera manufacturers, such as Panasonic, actually allow you to set the shutter angle. So in which case, put it at 180 degrees, and then you don't have to worry about the other settings. And you can let the camera take over auto there. The reason why we use a 180-degree shutter is to give that nice cinematic motion blur. So when I move my hand like this, you can see it moves nice and blurry, and it looks quite natural and pleasing. This camera is set to a 180-degree shutter. This is set to a 60-degree shutter, and that means the shutter speed is set way too high for the frames per second we have, and it's going to give this nice effect where we get extra fingers, as Sam pointed out, looking like I have 10 on this hand or something like that. Looking ridiculous. Basically, this doesn't look nice, and so when you have action or things moving around, it's going to look really weird and maybe even jarring for your audience. So bear that in mind. So remember, set your camera to shutter priority, which could be TV on the dial, and then put your shutter to double the frames per second you're shooting in. So if it's 25, put it to 50. If it's 50 frames per second, put it to 100. And then if you have the opportunity to use a shutter angle with your camera, put it to 180 degrees. And that's how you'll get this nice motion blur. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and subscribe. And if you would like to see other videos like this in future, or have any suggestions for videos, put them in the comments below, or send us an email on our website. The reason why we use a 180-degree shutter. So the reason why we use a 100... That's the general rule, and this is called a 100...